Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Get early access to all of our interviews, including the monthly Chichester chats with writer and comic book legend D.G. Chichester, new episodes of classic Capes and Lunatics shows, including The Quantum Zone, This, That, or the Third, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/capesandlunatics. Hope to see you there.
Me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Maz.
Welcome, Maz. So glad you could join us once again. Oh, man. So tonight's episode, in a galaxy far, far away, a galaxy of capes and lunatics, gods and monsters, on Coruscant, a former Imperial finds amnesty in the New Republic. Season 3, Episode 3 of The Mandalorian, Chapter 19, The Convert. But who is the convert, Maz? Our director this week is Lee Isaac Chung. Our writers this week are Noah Clore, of course, the ever-present Jon Favreau, and let me close this ad for Dungeons and Dragons. Who gets our created by credit. Jon Favreau and Noah Clore do both get written by. So you are right. So far, Jon Favreau is at least keeping his hand in writing everything. And George Lucas, he's just sitting on a big old pile of money saying, "Dance, Mandalorians, dance!"
He was a little upset that they didn't take his ideas for shows or whatnot, but, you know, like, it's a new generation. Enjoy, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, the thing is at the end of the day, it's like when Roddenberry would start to pitch stuff in his later years, and it was like, we love you, Gene, but, not everything is Green Animal Women,
Right.
And that is always the problem when you achieve that greatness early on, you sometimes, I don't want to say you lose your edge, but you move on. And other people who've been
That's why you need a Richard Bachman in your life sometimes. When you get too good at something, you need a Richard Bachman in your life. A pseudonym.
What is a Richard Bachman?
To be a brand new artist, making things that people won't have any expectations of,
Yeah. Anyway, so tonight's episode, this is interesting because, of course, this comes out just after, we get rescued from the mines of Mandalore. We're flying back. Everyone's got their helmets on, except for little Grogu, because he can't talk yet. No helmet till you learn to speak. Until you can say, "This is the way." You gotta be showing your naked face to everybody.
Right.
How embarrassing. Anyway, they come back to Bo-Katan's planet, feeling quite pleased with themselves. Din Djarin has been redeemed. Grogu has had his first Mandalorian adventure, flying the ship and everything, with good old R5-D4. And even Bo-Katan feels a little bit moved by the presence. And then what should happen, but out of nowhere, way too many TIE fighters show up. And I think this is what they're kind of leading up to here, is that there is something bigger and badder coming that we are unaware of. Possibly we got some hints in this episode that dropped today, but I haven't seen it yet. We have in this, or is it coming out tomorrow? I don't know. Either way, I think this is Wednesday and then Picard is Thursday. But in this moment, there's just a lot of TIE fighters, more than you would think for a local ex-Imperial warlord, and they decimate the castle. But we get a really awesome dogfight. I mean, just real classic, old school, Blue Angels kind of stuff in the fighting. And, we see Din just sort of jumps out of the ship to fly down to his craft to take off. And then just basically decimates everybody. Does the straight up flight and then 0G crash?
Yeah,
it is cool and amazing. And then they have to get out of town because even after they've basically decimated a bunch of these TIE fighter pilots, which again is just the show about how good and dangerous Mandalorians are. It's like you definitely get the feeling that there are no bad fighters among the Mandalorians.
Right. I mean, look at the way they raised, as we see in the next episode. But and it's like Bo-Katan is really, really good, and that's why they're so excited to have her back. It's like, oh, you did the thing, you filled out the form, you marked your T, right? Hey, welcome back.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing, and we'll get to that at the end. And there's a lot of people that think, why is she being so dismissed? She's not. She's like, yes, finally, I got Bo-Katan back to the family. Now we can start making our moves. But we'll get to that in a bit, because first, as they take off for parts unknown, we go back to Coruscant, where our good old buddy Pershing's there. Remember Dr. Pershing from season 1?
Now this is what the heart of this episode was for me. I almost forgot that there was a whole a dogfight in the beginning. I was like, oh, that's right. But because for me, this was like, and I just gotten done hearing about stories about FBI informants coercing people into committing crimes and then arresting them for those crimes. And then I watched this. I was like, oh my God, that's so funny.
Oh yeah. Well, so that's the interesting question here. And we'll get to that because I do want to touch on a lot of this stuff. So Ella Kane is played by Katie O'Brien, who is just a really awesome Special Forces BA. And, we have Pershing. So first off, we open up with Pershing giving his little, I too am a redeemed ex-Imperial. All I wanted to do was help and use genetic engineering to save lives. I was just a good soldier doing my part to make the world a better place.
He wasn't even a soldier. He was just a scientist. He just wanted to do science, and that was the only place where he could do his science. So unfortunately, the heart wants what it wants, and it'll end up where you can find that thing.
But, there is a moment as a scientist when you have to ask, are we the baddies? And when we get to what he's doing with Grogu, we got to say, are you the baddie?
Maybe, maybe you can convince somebody to keep the broader picture in mind, the good that it can do, the ills we do now are worth it for the broader goal. I can see scientists being talked into that. Look, Oppenheimer and whatnot, that movie's about to come out. People have done some crazy science who was the guy that invented the gas that was used in World War I?
I forget his name, but he
invented some sort of gas that made a lot of things possible, a lot of technology possible, but he also ended up giving that gas over to the Nazis to use. So, science is always fraught with these sorts of things. And when you remind yourself of the history of these things, you're like, I'm just a small cog. I just want to do some science. Whatever comes of it, in the end, humanity will be better because we discovered this thing. I can see that, talking a scientist into, especially if you show them a nice, pretty new lab. It makes me think of that scene in Breaking Bad when Walter does not want to go work with Gus, and he's like, I'm trying to get out, and he's considering whether he should get out or whether he should do on his own. And then Gus says, let me show you something. He walks him into this beautiful lab with all the equipment he's ever wanted. And in that heart, that was his painting. That was his art, was his chemistry. And so he sees that and he's completely bowled over and he's like, all right, let's do this. How much money did you say? You know what I mean? So I can see that happening for scientists. And I felt for him. He was the victim in this whole thing. He was then and he is now.
Yeah. Well, what I will say, just in the essence of full disclosure, because, hey, kids, we're an educational podcast, too. If we can get a tax credit for it. Fritz Haber was the inventor of mustard gas. He was actually a noted chemist long before he invented mustard gas. He actually he's the guy who basically created nitrogen fertilizer, which allowed, humanity to grow beyond a certain point, and why we're not all starving all the time. That said, his invention of mustard gas was kind of, hey, what would be a really quick way to end this war? What if we just killed everyone real quickly? And that was the creation of mustard gas.
Right. Unfortunately, it didn't work real quickly either.
No, it did not. It was excruciating and horrifying and all that kind of stuff. And, sadly, because he was Jewish, or at least had Jewish ancestry, he was murdered by the Nazis. So, because there's evil out there, man. There's always more evil, which I think maybe even the little bit of end bit here. But in this one, we got Alec Kane trying to. Well, so first off, we have him give his speech. He's being welcomed by all of the elites of Coruscant, who are, let us say, you kind of understand what Mon Mothma was going through at the time in the Obi-Wan. It's like, these were her neighbors. These were the people who were literally like, look, I don't know, Empire, Rebels. Do we have caviar? Do we have little things to eat? Because I'm really not worrying about who's in charge.
Did you say they have little mother of pearl spoons to eat my caviar with? You don't say.
Well, that was one of the things he said. I was almost drafted. Could you imagine me serving? He says, that was the Empire, dear. It's like, oh, yes. Well, but again, they're rich people. They don't really care who's in charge. They just want to keep their money.
Yeah.
They don't really sent you. They just want their money. Or the money. But Pershing's going through it, and he's having his difficulties. His parole officer is a droid. People have said this shows the early failings of the New Republic, that they were too reliant on droids, that they're banning research that could be helpful, but just because it has a thing, that they're decommissioning not only all of the old Imperial fleets, but their own fleet, that they were deciding that they just don't want to, because they were saying, they're going to take out the Rebels Armada too, or they're going to decommission that as well. And at a certain point, you realize, maybe they're going too far the other way.
This poor guy, what a great perspective to have us feel that the shift isn't really a shift, right? This poor guy just wanted to do science. The only place he could do it was with evil people there. And now he's here, and then the only place he can do science is by being bad, because he's surrounded by dumb people.
Yeah. Well, and that they're not utilizing his skills the way he would like to. Because that was a thing people pointed out. But
like, they're burning books, essentially, is what they're doing. He's surrounded by people who think it's okay to burn knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's really sad for a person like him. That's really, really sad.
Yes. And so I want to get to this, because I don't want to throw before I forget, my fan theory here. Ella Kane. Now, maybe there's details on who she is. I'm actually wondering, for those who watch The Bad Batch, if she might be a clone of Omega. If you watch The Bad Batch, there is a character by the name of Omega who's a little girl. But she is, like Boba Fett, like all the clone army, a perfectly engineered clone from the original, what's his name? Jango Fett DNA, where they were able to repurpose it. turned it into a female clone, and that they actually perfected that Omega clone.
She does have that look.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking, is this a deep reveal? Either that this is a clone of Omega, or that this is maybe Omega all grown up and gotten real dark. Because, you see things when you're with the Bad Batch. I don't know. This is my fan theory. I want to get it out there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get the sense that she doesn't entirely feel good about doing it either. Right?
And that's one of the things. That's what actually made me start thinking when they do pull the heist, and they're talking about like what was your motivation, what made you want to do this, and her statement that I never really had a choice, which really speaks to. I mean, it could speak to people, conscript stormtroopers who were like taken as children, but it also speaks very heavily to the clone troopers who never had a choice. They were never given the chance to not be a trooper. And, and as much as people maybe wanted to try to give Omega the chance, or if she's a clone of Omega, just, they got Omega's DNA and they grew themselves a little Ella Kane, who is the perfect soldier. But I like how it all plays out, how, it starts off with him getting called over to the table with the other crew, and they're all like, hey, no, we're not saying we miss the Empire, but what do you miss, and it's like the travel biscuits. And I do like the fact that this is how Ella says she likes the red ones. Everyone else is like, and I get the feeling those are like the liver dog treats, If you ever a little kid and you ever ate a dog treat, that like the chicken was not too bad. The beef was okay, but the liver ones, they really hit you hard.
Wait, so you've tried them at least 3 times is what you're saying?
When I was a little kid, yeah. Well, okay, I guess. Well, I don't know. Maybe you never had a dog, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I to be fair, I only had a dog when I was grown up, so.
Yeah, when you're a little kid and you have a dog, you're like, well, the dog seems to like it. I want my coat to be shiny. Yes, but yeah, so I definitely think the red ones are for the sociopaths in the group, and but you know what? They probably also were like the ones that had like the highest nutrition and the highest, the highest calorie, just everything you want from a protein bar. That's what the red ones were. And
red ones are made with beets and liver.
Yeah, pretty much, and that's the kind she likes because she's hardcore. And that's how I like the scene, and I do, man. It is a little weird when you're on Coruscant and they go to Monument Rock, which they say is the tallest natural structure, like the tallest mountain on Coruscant, and it's like a 8-foot high mountain. Meanwhile, all the skyscrapers are just towering above it. But it just shows how Coruscant is just a place that has been built up over whatever once was there. Whatever was once Coruscant, like all that stuff from Coruscant is this little, like the top of Mount Everest. That's all that's left.
Yeah, you got to imagine, like, when society first started getting so bloated, it must have looked like, a bunch of Manhattans everywhere. And then the entire planet was covered by Manhattans. And then that got to be too much. So they had to start building platforms above it to hold other buildings on top of it. So like by just happenstance, that becomes the underworld, the sewer. And then there's a shell on top of the entire planet more so. And then the only place that last little bit of the planet is peeking through is just that little peak. That's kind of beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful, but it's also terrifying because it is just that reality. I don't think all that steel came from Coruscant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's all pulling in stuff from all kinds of places.
Yeah, whatever Kuiper Belt there is near there, or maybe there's stuff in gas giants you can harvest. I don't know.
I don't know, but it implies, a huge colonial power, as always, And that's what it comes back to.
Or it's just all the Imperial stuff they've broken down. That's why they're breaking it down.
Well, and that's actually a good argument. It's like, no, man, we need you know how much one Death Star costs? You know what we could repurpose a Death Star as? And that's a fair cop. That's a fair cop to say, we could actually take like that Death Star and like build a nice, you could say we could build a school for the underprivileged, but we could also build another high rise for the even wealthier.
Right. It's like Dubai building these fake islands in the water, right? That look like palm trees or whole entire countries.
Yeah. Those are all sinking now too.
Hey, and I'm sure the Republic will at some point as well.
Yes. Well, that's sort of the whole process. It's about trying to figure out how you rebuild from what you were, and then where you go from there. And for what it's worth, as people have pointed out that, the United States went through a very similar issue after the revolution. We had the Articles of Confederation, which was very similar, just a weak central government, no real authority, no real unity between the different planets, or in our case, states. And then eventually before we had a real problem, we actually built America. And then, of course, had to have a civil war at the end, 100 years later, which caused its own problems, but helped us move beyond just the problems that we had. So,
right.
But in this moment, we are coming to this place where we have the seduction of Dr. Pershing. We have his pull back to the dark side, And hey, guess what? The dark side has cookies, because at first it's the yellow biscuits. We bring the yellow biscuits, and then, but if you could, they want to do good. They just need help. Yeah. They need someone to help. And
this is helping.
Yes, this is helping. But that's the thing. And that's the real interesting question here. Is she just there as a honeypot working within the New Republic to say, hey, who can we break? Who can we get to fall back? Or is she actively targeting this guy? Because after they get captured, he gets put in a mind flare. And that's a reference they make earlier in this episode when they're talking about what really happened to Moff Gideon. And, and basically there's those that say he escaped. There are those that say they put him in a mind flare because, clearly that's what the Empire would do. Just basically wipe your brain.
Right.
And
clearly that's also what the Republic would do.
Well, we don't know that because
don't they do that at least even to the scientist friend of ours?
Well, that's the question. Ella Kane does it. Is she doing it on orders from someone?
Oh, I don't think she was the one responsible for doing it. She was just the one meant to bring them in. I think she was watching whoever was standing next to her was the one in charge going, do it, do it, do it. And she was just like, man, I can't believe I did this. And that was the look in her eyes. But I think I think she's trying to prove herself to get in people's good graces so she can be in an opportune position to still be of value to the dark side when she's called.
Well, yeah. Well, she's definitely trying to be of value to the dark side.
Right. So she's trying to prove herself so they know, oh, yeah, she's turning her own people and she must be for the side of good or what they consider good.
But the idea is when she flays his mind, is that, because that's to me, that's the question. Is she flaying his mind?
I don't think she's the one responsible. She's just bringing them in and whatever infrastructure.
No, she's the one who turns the crank.
Huh?
Oh, okay. Maybe you missed that. Okay. At the end of the episode, well, not quite the end.
Oh, no. She does have a smile on her face, right? Oh, right. Because they leave and then she turns it up to more.
Yeah, she cranks it up to 11.
Right.
Which also shows it's not a repurposed mind flare. It's still a mind flare.
Right. It's just they're repurposing their intentions with it.
Yeah, well, they've basically found, if you don't turn it all the way up to 11, it's fine. we're not going to make it so you can't turn it up to 11. But, and that's what we got here is we've got this, she turns it up to 11 and we see the light go from blue to red. And I wonder if we're ever going to see Pershing again. No, I wonder if he's going to come out of this a broken man or...
I mean, whatever value there was to him as a person is gone. Like, what if, they say a mind is a terrible thing to waste, but that was a particularly valuable mind to waste.
Yeah, well, to me, that's the question. Did she truly flay his brain? Did she wipe his mind? Or Pershing at the end of episode 3? Did she wipe his mind, or did she just torture him so that when they meet after, she can go, I did not expect him to do that. I don't know who would have done that. That's not who the New Republic's supposed to be. I think we need to find other allies. And just to get him to more commit to the darkness and commit to what Moff Gideon still needs him for, unless Moff Gideon doesn't need him anymore. Unless his work is done here.
Or she doesn't want his research to fall into the hands of the Republic.
Yeah. Although I kind of feel like the New Republic was handling that all on their own. It's true. Like,
Very true.
I think what it is that it's also possible he just knew too much. And he was already telling them about, oh yes, well, so I was creating these chimera creatures and, I don't know who they were trying to clone so bad. But, yeah, so that's that. And that's where we leave, Ella and Pershing. If that's the last we see of Pershing, I will be sad. I hope it's not the last we see of Ella. I want to see Ella getting back and
they nailed that, making her evil scene. Like, I can't believe I didn't see it coming, but when she gets that big evil smile on her face, man, it was like, I was disappointed. I was sad. I was like, I can't, cause I was finding all sorts of reasons to be like, oh, she didn't really want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then she gets that smile on her face and you're like, man, they built a really good villain right there.
Exactly. All right, Maz. But let's finish up this episode with, after we escape the TIE fighters, we go to that wonderful lost planet of the Mandalorians, where we meet the armorer, who they're a little skeptical when they see their apostate come back and says, I have bathed in the waters. And he's like, yeah, it's real. The waters are there. It all worked. They do the little test and they see that, yes, these are in fact the living waters of Mandalore, because they turn blue. Because they're all full of midichlorians or something. And then the armorer basically says to Bo-Katan, he says, if you've bathed, then you are redeemed. And, keep your hat on, dude. And we welcome you back with open arms. And then she turns to Bo-Katan and says, did you bathe as well? He was like, yeah, I jumped in the water to save his stupid life. And he says, well, have you taken off your helmet since? She's like, no, I didn't. And it's like, well, then you two are redeemed and you are welcome to stay. And it gives Bo-Katan something she did not have, which is a place to be and a new army to lead if she can take it. So, and
isn't that what she's always wanted? Like, to actually lead the Mandalorians, right? And not just like a fractured sect of the Mandalorians, but like the ones that are the orthodoxy, that claim they are from Mandalore and follow the teachings of Mandalore or the ethos of Mandalore. And like, it's so funny. She spent her whole life, reveling in the fact that she could take her mask off, or that she rejected tradition and whatnot. And that she doesn't need it. She doesn't need that adherence to, hierarchy or tradition or whatnot. And now she's confronted with the thing that she said she didn't want right in her grasp. And she's like, well, do I really not want this? Yeah. Let me taste it a little bit. Maybe I will. I don't know. I'm right here.
And that's the thing. And I think seeing the Mythosaur last episode is that moment where it's like, wait, did I just see our god? I mean, is that
so? What is the story with the Mythosaur? What is what is a Mythosaur?
A Mythosaur is basically a giant aquatic Loch Ness monster kind of creature that it can also go on land. It's got big tusks, and it's as big as it's as big as a house. And Mandalore was able to ride it, and as he rode the Mythosaur, he was able to unite his people because he had the biggest dog on the block.
Oh, that's so interesting. Again, with the Dune influence, right? Mm-hmm. This is Paul Atreides riding the worm and uniting the tribes, and that's so interesting.
Yeah. Although, it's interesting that one of the traits we've seen of Grogu is he can talk to and calm animals. And through the Force, and this is where, are the Mandalorians actually a very Force-sensitive people? They just don't use it the way the Jedi did. Mm-hmm. Because they use it to heighten their reflexes and to be at one with their bodies and not trying to control physical objects outside of what they need to, But, talking to animals, that's always good when you're a warrior. All right. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Maz?
No, it's a show's just getting better and better each episode this season so far.
Oh yeah, I'm really happy about this. This is such a good show, and it's what Star Wars needed. It really is what Star Wars needed to build itself a cosmos. And it's what the novels used to do, and and the fact of the matter is, the novels are great, but they're not really for the masses. If you don't read, it's hard, but you can get all of that thought and depth and character and story played out in this melodrama, and that also builds your universe, and that's a good thing. So I think, I'm not saying I don't like reading, because I do like reading, but not everybody has time to read anymore, We gotta dance for the white clown. Anyway, I like this episode, and I can't wait to see the one that dropped today.
Yeah. I'm interested in more of these little side stories about the political intrigue and the difficulties of people trying to assimilate over from the dark side over to the Republic. That's really interesting. I would love to see more stories of that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot that's going to be coming down the pike, and that's good. All right, Mozzie. If people like this show and they would like to talk to us about it and they'd like to write it down, they can write to us at capesandlunatics@gmail.com. They can call us at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Or they can go down to Linktree, linktr.ee/capesandlunatics, find links to all of our shows, links to our Cash App, links to our Patreon, links to our merch, and all sorts of wonderful things. Please do that and let us know what you think. And Moz, if people would just like to reach out to you, how can they do that?
Oh, they can email me at mozmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Moz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our mothers and fathers once did. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things when I can stand to, which sadly Gotham Knights is not yet there. At Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Ding.
Thank you, Maz. All right, me hearties, you come to the end of another exciting voyage down the bounding main. Come again next week as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arrgh.